Okay, so this is video number 4, and we're going to talk about too much in your site, meaning there's just way too much in your website that it has become literally bloated. So as I stated in the previous video, most WordPress sites take up a lot of resources after the fact that you've started to add a ton of WordPress plugins, images, pages, posts, and other demo content, or the WordPress theme is just bloated with tons of code. So you really want to ask yourself, do I really need this? In fact, a lot of times it's super easy to go through your WordPress site and install a bunch of plugins because it makes your site user experience really amazing. And that's great, but you really need to ask yourself, do I really need this for every single item on your site? If you really haven't thought about this, maybe you need to go back to your WordPress site and go through every single item and ask yourself this. And for the ones that you don't need, delete them, deactivate them. Now, one thing to remember is when you first purchase a WordPress site, it usually comes with a lot of demo content that is built into it to show you what the site could potentially look like. But that said, if you install the demo content and you just tweak it a little bit here and there, and you don't go back and you delete all the demo content, then your site is going to load extremely slow. Now, this often includes unnecessary images, posts, or pages that simply clog up your site. And that's what's happening here. A lot of themes, a lot of times, they'll come with tons and tons of amazing features that look amazing, that are things that potentially could increase your conversions, increase your sales, and all of this greatness. But at the end of the day, here's the thing: the more features and options there are in a theme, the more code there is. The more code that you may never use. The more code there is, the slower the site will run. So plugins are actually a huge variable that will slow down your site, and they'll actually create security backdoors as well. Now, let me clarify. WordPress itself, when you install it by default, that itself is secure. But the plugins that you've installed that are developed by third-party people that are not related to WordPress in any way, those plugins are often programmed, even though they could be programmed to their highest standards, they're not directly from WordPress. All right, so that's something to keep in mind, that there is no real standard. So it's almost like having a computer, whether it's a PC or a Mac, and installing them, the softwares from different third parties other than from Microsoft, right? So you don't know how they programmed it. You don't know if their programming standards are up to par. You don't know any of that. You just know that you installed the software and that's it. And you know that that's something that you really want. Now, it's super easy if you think about it to want to start installing tons of different plugins for your WordPress site because it can make the user experience a lot better. But that's why you really need to ask yourself, do I really need this? So our recommendation to you is to try to stick with the maximum of 10 plugins if at all possible. And if you have to have more plugins, then you really need to think about making sure that your web hosting plan can actually take it. And you've got enough speed, you've got enough resources to be able to handle that. And that's another reason why you need to have a good web hosting plan, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Now, the number of images is fine, and we'll discuss how to squeeze that down. But when you get to a point where you have hundreds of images or even thousands of images, that can be a problem in itself. Another thing is you want to create posts and pages that you need and remove all the ones that you don't. Now, this will usually speed up your site a little bit, just a tad, but it's just a start. Now, we've seen websites that have had literally hundreds or even thousands of posts, and those sites usually often take a lot more resources to run. So seeing a lot of these sites on shared hosting plans essentially will slow your site down. So go ahead, do a quick clean of your site now, and really think to yourself, do I really need this?